Okay, now it's time to go over lesson plan number 4. Let's start sharing my screen. And here we are with lesson number 4. So for the informative data, like you said, it doesn't apply. And the theme for this lesson plan is what kind of traveler are you? The date is November 28th, 2020. And this is for grade Primero Bachillerato General Unificado. And the class will be 45 minutes. And this is a proficiency level for an A2.2, which is elementary English. The lesson plan designer is me, Maria Jose Vinuesa Jaramillo. And the objectives. During this lesson, students will be able to, first, the listening part, they will need to listen to conversations and instructions from the teacher. And the speaking part, they will need to name vocabulary words and also the pronunciation and information on tag questions, intonation of tag questions. For the reading part, they will need to follow a reading, they will need to follow a conversation, and they will need to identify the words or the vocabulary words. For the writing part, they will need to complete conversations using vocabulary words and complete grammar chart using tag questions. They will need to use grammar also to write their sentences. For the methodology and strategies, they will need to use the total physical response. I am in charge of putting the methods, and in this case, I use the total physical response and the communicative approach in the audiolingual. And for strategies, I have pair work and individual work. For the anticipatory set, I will show some images of different settings or environments or places, and students will need to choose only one and tell the class why they picked that image. With this, students will be able to communicate, they will be able to share the ideas they have, they will need to speak in English as well, and they will need to communicate in the English language. In this anticipatory set, like I said, they will need to pick only one image for them to develop that into ideas. For the fifth main teaching input, for the warm-up, students and teacher will play Simon Says. Here the students will need to follow the instructions for the game. Like I said, that's one of the objectives that I want from the student, so they can be able to listen to all the instructions that the teacher is saying. In this case, they will play a game, and they will need to touch their heads. If I ask them to do it, they will need to jump, they will need to clap their hands together. And one of the methods that I asked is the total physical response, and in this case, we're applying that to this activity game. For the main teaching input, for the next step, I will show students how to create tag questions. Of course, using the grammar structure, in this case, which is a positive statement plus a negative question tag, or a negative statement plus a positive question tag. I'm going to be showing them how to use that structure in that grammar structure as well. For the next step, I'm going to give students an activity where the students will need to read. That was also one of the objectives that I want from students, so they can be able to read and listen and complete the grammar chart, making sure that they use tag questions for the sentences. That was one of the objectives. Like I said, they will need to read, listen, comprehend, and complete the assignment. of course, using the topic, and also the grammar structure that I mentioned before. Teacher here will monitor students if necessary. I'm going to be with the students, helping them out with if they have questions about grammar, or maybe they didn't understand the grammar structure that I'm asking them to do, or if they cannot make the tag questions. I'm going to be happy to help them out with any of the doubts that the students going to have. Then for the next step, I'll be asking students to pair up to continue with the next activity. They will need to get a partner, and they will need to complete the tag questions with the correct pronunciation of the words. One student's going to be asking the other student, and here we are applying the communicative approach. Students will be able to communicate to each other in the English language. I'm going to be accompanying the student through their process, especially through the speaking process, and it's very important for students to understand and pronunciate better the words. I'm going to be looking and observing some of the students who need support, and also help with some of those important things that the students need. Well, actually, they will need to ask me, or they will need to come to me if they have doubts, but I'm going to be checking on them. Also, students will need to practice intonation, which is the rising intonation and falling intonation on the tag questions. And this is going to be audiolingual, since we're going to be repeating this activity maybe 2 times. Since it's important for me, and like I said, one of the objectives is the pronunciation of the words, and especially here intonation on tag questions. And yes, they will have to practice individually as well by themselves. And to conclude, we will briefly review some of the activities. We will review the topic, and we will share the vocabulary words that describes traveling. I'm going to share with them some images and the vocabulary words for the topic, which is about traveling. For modeling, I'm going to demonstrate the students, like I always said. I'm going to be putting myself as an example, and students will be able to copy what I'm doing, or they will be able to feel more confident while doing the activities. Teacher demonstrates students how can they create tag questions and use the correct pronunciation or intonation of words. And I'm going to be modeling the activities, like I said. And of course, after that, students are going to be able to understand a little bit better and comprehend how I want them to be the test done. I want it to be the task done. As a guided practice, students will work on their course book for the first activity, where they need to listen, read, and complete a grammar chart. The teacher will be in charge of making sure the students use the correct tag questions and complete the tasks with the proper grammar structure. And the teacher will also listen to students' pronunciation of the vocabulary words. With the guide of the teacher, students will be confident to accomplish. Like I said, one of the main things that I want to accomplish here is also that students feel confident and to be exposure to the English language. And mostly, of course, writing as well is very important for them. So that's one of the objectives that I have to here in this lesson plan. As an independent practice, students will work individually, and they will work, like I said, in the pronunciation, and they will need to read conversations on their textbook. And after that, I'm going to send them homework where they need to practice by themselves. As an assessment, I will consider as assessment the questions that I'm going to be asking during the whole class. For example, here I put what kind of traveler are you? Do you like to travel? Where do you like to go? Or what is the grammatical structure for the tag question, which is the what I thought and what was the lesson about. And I'm gonna ask them what is the right intonation for tag questions. And as a close and a follow-up, I'm going to finish the class by mentioning a place in Ecuador they would like to travel. They will have to tell me that. And for homework, like I said, they will need to practice by themselves. They will need to write down a list of places they would like to visit and use tag questions for their answers. Use tag questions for as an examples. Here I put an example, going to a pool is much relaxed than going hiking, isn't it? So that would be the lesson plan number 4. And here I have the supplementary material, which is the images that I was going to show at the beginning of the class. And of course, we're going to be using the textbook as a resource too, as a tool. They will need to use their book. And here we have some examples, some of the activities that I picked for them to do, to complete. And of course, the vocabulary words that I mentioned before, we will be looking through some specific words when they're travel. And here are the words too that they need to know for this lesson. So that will be all for lesson number 4. Thank you so much.